Several months ago, we broke out with an exclusive report right here on the WDW Pro channel that Warner Brothers was likely for sale. Not only did we say that, but we said that DC and its soft reboot with James Gunn at the helm was really about just keeping the thing alive, presenting it as a soft reboot, but having James Gunn there as the carrot on the stick to get a buyer to take it and then do what they really wanted with DC. At the time, many folks out there said that was crazy, that was nuts, there's no way that could possibly be true. But true it appears to be. Now, new reporting months later is corroborating and confirming what we reported so long ago, and we're ready to dive in and tell you even more about this dumpster fire that has been the DC lineup, including one Amber Heard and one very drunk Jason Momoa. Hello, folks, and welcome back. It is a wonderful day on the WDW Pro channel because you are with us, and that makes it wonderful. Folks, we are here with Culture Casino and Lorne Connor, and we are excited to dive in. Today is a double dose of Lorne. He's been on both videos. You might say, why is Lorne here? Well, he said, hey, Culture Casino is going to be on that video. I want to join in too. And I said, well, Lorne, you're always welcome to be a part of it. And it is indeed true, folks. You're also welcome to be here. We only ask that you make sure that you click that like button if you like the content. We never pursue pushing you to click it if you did not. Here we go, folks, as we dive in now into our very first article. This out of our good friends at Bounding Into Comics. Warner Brothers employees believe studio will be sold within the next 2 years, appears to lend credence to previous rumors. This by John Trent. It says a new report claims that Warner Brothers will be sold within the next 2 years, making upcoming DC subplots feel quaint. That's right. This new report comes from Variety's Tatiana Siegel, who states some on the lot are convinced that another company, most likely Universal, will buy Warner Brothers within 2 years, making recent DC subplots and upheavals feel quaint. She goes on to cite Wall Street analyst and venture capitalist Rich Greenfield, who informed her the bottom line is they need to get DC to work, whether Zaslav owns it, whether Brian Roberts owns it, whether somebody else owns it. I also want to say, folks, that this is part of that same rumor that we broke here on this channel about Harry Potter being rebooted and recast. Remember that back then people thought that was crazy when I said it. Yes, there was some talk about maybe they would reboot Harry Potter, but it was like this off in the wild blue yonder kind of thought. And then when I said, well, they're going to recast the kids and they're going to do the kids instead of adults. Well, that was too much. People were like, Pro, this is you've lost it. It was confirmed later. But it's not like I'm some sort of prescient future knower. No. What happened here, folks, is that we knew that they were trying to reboot both of these franchises so that it would be in a better place for a buyer to come in and get it. They don't want these franchises to be either limping or dormant. So that's how we know. Now, at this time, let's go to what we originally said about this DC rumor back when we exclusively broke it right here on the channel. Here we go. Warner Brothers Discovery allegedly feels the more lucrative option is to rejuvenate the franchises with non-connected properties while still unloading bad inventory so that when a company like Apple or Amazon, when they purchase them potentially, they get the benefits of a refreshed franchise plus the ability to craft their new cinematic universe in whatever way they choose. All right, let's stop there, gentlemen, and we'll just roundtable this. Paul, I know that you've had some interesting takes on Warner Brothers Discovery and their slate of DC films and TV shows that they've got coming out. What say you with this first salvo?
His face says it all.
Wow. Well, I'm highly suspect with anything to do with Apple. Apple, I've worked with them. I'm not an expert on Apple, but they are very careful about not getting into areas that they don't have a lot of expertise in.
Sure.
So I know that it's not part of their culture. Even Apple TV they're treating it more like the Apple TV box, like a hobby. But only a company that's worth trillions of dollars can do what they're doing as a hobby. The thing that they probably enjoy more than anything else with this Apple TV Plus is that they get to hobnob with celebrities. That's
Absolutely. It's a
actually
nice perk.
that's their perk. That's really the only perk that they want out of this. Now, Amazon is a little bit different. I could actually see them doing this. I don't think they're particularly happy with the management that they've got. And when you buy a company, you're actually buying management.
All right, and back to present day, folks. Here's what the article continues to say. Interestingly, Variety's report lends credence to a rumor from YouTuber Sile Abdul, who shared back in July that James Gunn's upcoming Superman legacy film is a way of showcasing the DC world to a potential buyer. Now, if we continue down here, you're going to see also that we've got a reference to the WDW Pro channel here in the article. It says, a previous rumor from Scooper WDW Pro in February also claimed that James Gunn's DC Universe slate announcement at the end of January was bait for a potential buyer. He claimed Warner Brothers' Discovery with both DC and Harry Potter is to soft reboot the franchises in order to make them seem more viable and healthy. However, rebooting them with projects that are highly interconnected and or episodic in chronological consistency is not desired at this time. We won't continue to quote myself. That's a little bit odd. But we'll just say that it looks like this is coming true. Culture, do you think that this strategy that they appear to be employing will work, where they reboot it in quotation marks, right? So they keep it alive. They kill off this old stuff, though, and they do these kind of niche, superfluous, non-connected stories to say, hey, James Gunn is there. He's doing stuff. But they keep it wide open so that when a buyer comes in, the buyer can say, here's what we want you to do with Batman. Here's what we want you to do with Superman. And, oh, yes, we're paying for James Gunn to do that.
I actually think that's a brilliant plan, and it seems like that's actually what they intend to do. Since you're not actually tying all the films together, you can go in almost any direction. You essentially are beginning with starting points, which is what I would have suggested DC do all the time, and build their characters up from the very beginning. It sounds like James Gunn understands this, and his partner Safran understands this, and they're probably going to market them as a package as part of the deal. This would help Warner Brothers Discovery immensely in the future, because Warner Brothers Discovery is in some trouble, similar to, well, actually they're in more trouble than Disney, but they're in trouble, and they would probably welcome a buyer of this new DC universe.
Absolutely, absolutely. I also want to go to Lorne, and Lorne, we have watched as Star Wars has struggled, and we have often thought what Star Wars really needs is a complete and total reboot. Looks like DC fans are going to get that, but it's not coming yet. And it really depends on what the buyer wants. If you were on any sort of team or committee looking at what DC properties need to be launched first, would you recommend that that a new buyer go for a Superman origin story yet again? Or do you think that the folks out there are tired of origin stories and we just need to hop into the action straight away?
I don't think it necessarily needs to be an origin, but there are two directions that I would take it if you were going to do something with Superman, for instance, which I think would be the smart play. I think what I would do is you either tell a period piece where you're doing Superman in the 60s, where you're having the traditional kind of newsroom with the clacking typewriters and that kind of thing.
I'd even go with the 30s, Lauren. I'd love to watch Superman in the 30s, honestly.
Sure, I think there's some fun ways that you could do that, but take it out of the modern day so that you can get away with some of the tropes of Superman and still have it feel period appropriate. If you're not going to do that, I would take Superman big and epic and do a fight against Brainiac. I don't think that Brainiac has really gotten his proper due, and I think that there's probably a good story that could be told there.
That's really got me thinking now, what you said about the period pieces. Culture, if a new buyer comes in and they're trying to get these properties launched in the right way, and they want to avoid the controversies of wokeness, wherever that might be in the next few years. We're watching as the world changes before our very eyes. But one way that you can get around it is you can put it into a period, right? You can put it into a time frame where the woke ideologies don't yet exist, and then you can kind of get away with it a little bit. Now, I don't know if that'll satisfy everyone, but what do you think about a 1930s or 1940s Superman? What do you think about a Batman who's back from the originating era, and then working it forward a little bit.
I think that makes the properties even more valuable. I think that's 100% right. I think Lauren was on to exactly what needs to happen. If you place it back then, it's harder to put modernity into it. And modernity is what's killing a lot of things. I mean,
modernity sucks.
Look at what's happening. Look at what's happening right now with the Snow White story we've been covering for months, it seems.
Right.
You're dragging something down it's an old fashioned, fairy tale, and you're tearing it asunder to try to fit into modernity, and you're creating something that's Frankensteinian.
Isn't it strange, Culture, how from a technological standpoint, life has never been better. There's never been a stronger middle class when you look at the entire globe. There's never been this degree of low-level poverty, right? We've eradicated poverty in huge, vast amounts of the world at incredible speeds. And yet there are ideologies and narratives that people are embracing that you're like, hey, that's how all the terrible things happened in the past. Maybe let's not do those again. And we're seeing that play out. I really think that as we see real-world tragedy happening, manifesting, and we take no joy in that. But I think that entertainment would do well to avoid that and to give us very abstractly purely good heroes and purely bad villains. There's some middle ground to play with, but I don't think folks are going to be too interested in the virtue signaling Supermans, and I don't think that they're too interested in all of this ESG stuff. So I would recommend that whoever gets a hold of this, tell James Gunn, we want the quality of Guardians of the Galaxy, and we don't want for a second to get mired into the, as you put it, modernity.
I would enjoy a 1938 Daily Planet. I think I would enjoy that.
Absolutely. Lauren, who would you get to play some of these characters? Any preferences there?
I'm not really sure about Batman. Batman tends to be my favorite DC character, but if I was going to be casting for Clark Kent, I'd be looking at John Hamm. He may be a little bit old to do it now, but I think that if you put it in the proper period, one of the reasons that I think doing period pieces would be good is because we've gotten so far away from the comic origins. All of these superheroes used to work in newsrooms where you had clacking typewriters and things. Now you get all your news on a cell phone, and you've got people doing like podcasts and things in the comics, and it just doesn't feel true to the origin.
And you're right, though. There's like a cinematic poetry to the clacking of the typewriters and the setting back then. It just works so much better than somebody looking at a little screen that you can't see on the big screen.
It gives you time to run downstairs to find a phone booth, to strip out of your clothes real fast and hit the crime scene.
Wait a minute, what's a phone booth? What is that you speak of, this alien thing?
It seems quaint, but I think there's some of those tropes that were part of the characters that made it was funny, but it was also fun.
Today. You literally can't do them. I hadn't thought about that.
I think that speaks to even a larger degree to what we're seeing when these shows or these efforts return back to the period of the 70s. We just had an example that not Disney related called The Continental. It was the early part of the John Wick world, and it was amazing. The cinematic filter that was used, the period clothing, the vehicles, everything. And Lauren and I are sucker for vehicles, guys. I don't know if you know that, but I mean, I would love to see, can you imagine the vehicles in the 30s or the 40s awesome. Even? I mean, goodness.
Now, think about the animated Batman show and think of how they would build the Batmobile in a 1940s style, only with like modern muscle car aesthetics, because that would be futuristic for that period Batman. And that's what you want to see. I think you can have a lot of fun with faithful adaptations of those kind of things in that kind of Superman Fleischer or the animated series Batman style.
You think you could get away with Haley Atwell as
Lois Lane?
Yeah. As Clark Kent's female interest.
I'm totally happy with that. I'm totally happy with it. At first, I thought you were going to say Haley Steinfeld. I think I've got.
Well, that would work too.
It works too.
Yeah, I'm easily swayed though when it comes to the ladies who could definitely play.
Let me run defense though for us real quick though, guys. There are going to be those out there who are going to misconstrue what we've been talking about.
Oh yeah.
They're going to say that we yearn for the days of old because it was monolithic in its portrayal of people, right? We want to go back to the era of white guys and being the heroes and the damsels in distress and no representation, yada yada. Folks, that's not what we're talking at all. We're talking about cool settings that work well in cinema. We're not talking about wishing for there to be less representation or anything like that. That's a totally superfluous thing. I just want to run defense for us to say that because I don't want anybody out there to think that's what we're discussing. I think that's completely out of the realm of what we're interested in for this conversation. That's for a conversation for another day, I'm sure.
One of the great things about the 1978 Superman was that you had Clark Kent in his three-piece suit that he took to the office wearing a fedora. Yeah, he looked a bit like a geek, but he was also mimicking that 1930s, 1940s style that people associated with Clark Kent. I can't imagine Clark Kent doing that in the modern day. What do you think Clark Kent would wear in 2023 at the newsroom? Some
Well,
kind
it's
of a
always, yeah, I don't know, t-shirt and jeans with holes in them. And perhaps, well, if the folks that drive this kind of stuff really got their way, he'd be wearing political slogans all over himself that we would disagree with. But that's neither here nor there for now. But I do want to say, guys, that when it comes to casting, I can tell you some folks who may not be cast in future DC stuff because it's a dumpster fire right now. And this story is insane. Now, Culture, you were telling me that one of our very good friends and a major influencer in the world when it comes to entertainment, that he had the scoop on this. Who was that?
Oh, Tom Connors of Midnight's Edge and Midnight's Edge After Dark. He was talking about almost every single element of this months and months and months and months and months ago. He had
Fantastic.
it nailed. Yeah, he did a wonderful job talking about it, about Amber's difficulties behind the scenes, everything, and then the ultimate truth. And I'll spill that before we get to the article because the article has wonderful tea in it that we can spill. But the fact that it wasn't just Amber Heard that was the problem with the movie; it was the movie was just bad.
Yes. Well, I wanted to say that and give Tom that shout out, lest people think that, we're just here being braggadocious about, we always get the leaks here. Oh, we've always got the scoops. No.
No.
Many of our friends out there are doing great and amazing work. And Tom is one of them. Tom has been doing this for years and years. And ultimately, too, it even goes beyond that. All the times that we get scoops like the Harry Potter reboot and recast or like DC is for sale, that comes due to sources being so kind and gracious and putting their necks out on the line for us and trusting us. And so ultimately, we have to give all the praise to those individuals who help us out with that. And it's all about keeping people ahead of the culture curve. It's all about explaining entertainment. We endeavor to do that. We're not the only ones. Make sure you check out Midnight's Edge as well. This article is from Tatiana Siegel. Aquaman 2 flooded with drama. Jason Momoa allegedly drunk on set. Amber Heard scenes cut. Elon Musk's letter to Warner Brothers and more. It's only missing hippos and 2 shower days, I tell you. It says these waters are getting choppy. On the same day in mid-September that Warner Brothers dropped the trailer for its $215 million Aquaman and the Lost Kingdom, embarrassing documents from the Johnny Depp Amber Heard defamation trial surfaced on Reddit, creating a new headache for the studio behind the film. Depp fans paid the court fees for the release of documents from Heard's therapist, Dr. Dawn Hughes. The raw notes scribbled on a legal pad were part of last year's high-profile trial in which Depp largely prevailed. They described a hostile Aquaman set where an allegedly intoxicated, i.e. drunk, Jason Momoa dressed like Depp and pushed to have Amber Heard booted from the role of Aquaman's superhero, Mara. Jason said he wanted me fired, the notes say. Jason drunk, late on set, dressing like Johnny, has all the rings too. Guys, this plays out like some sort of crazy soap opera drama. I think this movie is destined to fail, and it's not hard to see why James Gunn, David Zaslav, et al. Want to drop this like not a hot potato, like a hot, I'm going to say it, a hot turd, because you can't not say it. It's Amber Heard, folks. I mean, she pooped the bed. She pooped the bed.
I use Mr. Depp's description, say it's a grumpy.
Well, this movie's very grumpy. This movie may get 5 grumpies for its for how bad it is. 5 out of 5 grumpies for Aquaman 2. That's what we're hearing. Huge budget, but it's not hard to see why they need to get all of this stuff behind them. There were those rumors that Wonder Woman was going to see Gal return. That's probably not happening. they need to wipe the slate clean. They need to move on. Lauren, we've talked about Star Wars needing to do the same. You don't want to wipe out the original trilogy, of course, but the same way that you don't wipe out the original Superman comics. But when it comes to DC, this is not going to work. They have to drop these actors, they have to drop these storylines, and they need to just churn out some periphery, some superfluous stories, and get themselves in a place to be bought. Ultimately, that I think is what they're trying to do, and they're just trying to get their value as high as they can in the meantime.
Yeah, I think that probably severing themselves from the Zack Snyder experiment is probably the right thing to do. I apologize to Snyder fans. I just don't think that it worked in the long run.
Rebel Moon, guys. You've got Rebel Moon. It's okay. Don't come after Lauren. Rebel Moon.
So I do think that the last thing that I enjoyed out of the DC universe as a whole was Nolan's Batman films. I actually did kind of like The Batman with Robert Pattinson. It's not my favorite of the Batman films, but I didn't think it was bad. I also like Joker, but the rest of what they put out, I'm not real crazy about. And so I think they do need to get back to their roots. I'd like to see them get back more to the original vision of the characters. That's why I think period pieces would maybe be a good idea. If they do that, as long as they're not tying any future owners' hands, that could put them in a good position. As long as you get somebody who's passionate and loves the characters and wants to portray them as they were originally conceived, I think that an audience would eat that up. And we've gotten so cynical in our storytelling with these things that I think maybe some old school optimism might be good for the audience.
Very, very well said. I want to give Culture the final word on this. Culture, when the original slate from James Gunn came out for DC, what he was going to do, when that came out and I looked at some of that stuff that was off in the distance, I said, there's no way this is real. This is placeholder. There's no way that they are going to end this phase with Swamp Thing. There's no way this is real. Culture, what do you think are the chances now that those pieces of content actually get made? Or especially since we've had the strike. The strike slowed down everything. I think the majority of all that stuff that we saw, I hate to say it for fans who were like, oh man, I can't wait for that. I can't wait for that. I don't think it's happening. I think give me your opinion. I don't want to prejudice it.
You wouldn't, by the way, but no. I mean, you don't think we're going to get Booster Gold?
I think the later it is in that slate, the less likely it happens, because I guarantee you that whoever buys it, whether it is Universal or Amazon, I'm going to pause there for dramatic effect, folks. You take that for what you will, but whoever buys it, they're not buying it for some of those later slates. Oh. They're buying it for Superman. They're buying it for Batman. And they're not crazy like Kathleen Kennedy. They did, she took over Star Wars and was like, yeah, get rid of that Luke Skywalker. Yeah, we don't like that Darth Vader. Yeah, we're not going to use those. They're buying, whoever buys this, they want Superman. They want Clark Kent. They want Lois Lane. They want Batman. Who knows? They may even want Robin, but they sure as heck don't want some of this other stuff that's just way out there on the Z tier.
That's funny because Gunn made his, kind of made his bones on the Z tier stuff. Guardians of the Galaxy.
Yeah, he transformed Guardians, didn't he?
Yeah, but that's not my argument. My argument is the only thing I expect to see is Superman. That's it. I don't expect, outside of the Peacemaker show, which is reportedly good. I didn't quite enjoy it like others do, but that's probably all and the best that they have to offer is the first Superman legacy film. And I think that's the best thing that you'll see. I think the rest of it, like you stated, is probably placeholder. But if their feet are held to the fire, they can certainly make it. If anybody can make Booster Gold work, it's going to be James Gunn.
Oh yeah, well done. Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, James Gunn he's shown it. I mean, he has made I'm Groot a household understanding, right? So
I am Groot.
I'm Groot. All right, folks. Well, the way that you could say I'm Groot to us is click the like button, share, subscribe. When you click it, you stick it to the algorithms. It's the notification bell. And yes, we, as always, covet your comments. We care about what you think. A mind is a terrible thing to waste, and waste it not here on this channel. Conversation is closed between the three of us, but it begins now with all of you, and this is a community discussion. Welcome aboard. Before we go, though, let's go to Culture Casino and ask Culture, where can people find you on this great, big, beautiful web out there?
Well, you can find me oftentimes on That Park Place, probably 4 or 5 times a week, but you can occasionally find me writing for That Park Place, although I keep a lower profile there. But ultimately, you can find me on all of my channels, which are all Culture Casino. So they're really easy to find on YouTube, Rumble, Odyssey, Minds, Getter, and the platform formerly known as Twitter.
Culture, what time do you release your daily countdown?
Oh, the 6-minute daily is at, well, and it's going to change because we're going to have a time change, but it is at 8:45 a.m. Pacific Standard Time, which makes it 11:45 Eastern Standard Time, at least
11:45, and then you go on to Midnight's Edge after that, usually, right?
Yeah, a Monday, Wednesday, and Friday, indeed. And
All right,
on the
let's
Tuesday,
go.
on the Tuesday, Thursday, you get more than 6 minutes. I give you bonus time, somewhere between
Holy
half an hour and
cow.
more.
And no extra charge.
Well, it's free. It's free. Yeah, and
My gosh, what a magnanimous man he is. Folks, wherever you are, it may be going into your lunch break, it may be your breakfast, your brunch, what have you, but you should be joining Culture Casino every chance you get. His content is fabulous. Lauren also writes for That Park Place, sometimes appears on the YouTube channel, and you can find him over on Valiant Renegades, live chat sometimes on the show on Sundays. And of course, Lauren, we're so happy when you're here on the channel. Lauren, how does it feel to have your very first double dose day? Lorraine is the only other person who's ever had this.
Pretty good. I had a lot of fun. I do want to make one correction to Culture's statement, though.
Uh-oh, the can of worms is being opened at the end of the video. Lauren, take it.
We are Groot.
We are Groot.
All right, folks, we are Groot, and we are out of here. We hope you enjoyed it. Folks, wherever you are and whatever you're doing, keep learning, keep growing, and we are Groot.
Listen up, my brothers and sisters. You've been listening to Phils and Zoes with an agenda to destroy your brain cells for far too long. It's time to change your way of doing things. Hold up. TPP is the place to be. Covering the news so honestly. It's a team that's cool and tried and true. Ahead of the culture curve, they're trying to keep you. Jonas and Pro, they run the show, and they dragged in the bearded Culture Casino. You got Valiant and Lord and Force of Light. Wonderful people, yeah, they're alright. They got weird bringing in people like Floral, but made no mistake with Lorena Creole. Amelia and John, stuttering guitarist. Martin and Tawny, and someone called CMS. Fat Steven makes a bunch of other graphics. Did I mention a partnership with Bending in the comics? Fat Sky is a guy, and Doc Matt does the web stuff. There's probably some people I missed. I hope they're not telling you the news. That should be fun. With accurate info that's not been spun, you can figure it out as you will see. The TPP is the place to be.